For the past few years, Panda Indie Studio has quietly built a reputation as the go-to developer for small and stylish throwback games. From the striking color choices in Red Death, to the lo-fi action in Null Drifter, to Pity Pit's clever take on Dig Dug, I always know that I'm in for a good time when I see that Panda logo. Their newest game is Project Starship X, an updated version of a PC shooter first released back in 2015. It's an over-the-top action game with random levels, a few clever ideas, and an almost unhealthy amount of 16-bit charm. But is Project Starship X a victim of style over substance? That's what I want to find out. Hop into your ship and blast off, because the universe is under attack and only you can save it. Project Starship X is the latest in a long string of shoot-em-ups that hopes you're going to be too busy dodging bullets to realize that there isn't actually a story. The developer uses terms like cosmic horror and Lovecraftian parody to explain what's happening, but it doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that you're about to jump in the cockpit and shoot down a bunch of aliens in 14 different sci-fi stages. The gimmick here is that the colorful cast of characters can use their X maneuver to dash around the screen avoiding bullets, snagging power-ups, and even killing enemies with low health. We only have one life to live, but our trusty ship can sustain and regain shields that'll give the player a fighting chance. Taking too many hits will not only cause the ship to explode, but send us back to the very beginning of the game. No continues or anything. Yeah, it's that kind of game. So, Project Starship X is a self-described Rogue-Lite shooter, so expect it to be both challenging and random. The goal is to fight through 14 diverse stages, though you'll only be fed 5 of them at a time. Although most of these levels are set against the typical space background or asteroid field, there are a few standouts that show a developer trying to add to the all-too-familiar formula. For example, there's a really cool stage where we're skimming the sun and slowly getting sucked into its gravity. There are also stages where our ship will turn into something resembling a car, where you'll have to jump over enemies and obstacles. And that's not the only kind of alternate vehicle at our disposal, as there are parts of the game where you'll have to crash into much larger vessels in order to add to the firepower. There's definitely a nice variety of things to do beyond just shooting bad guys and dodging bullets. On top of being fed different stages in each playthrough, you'll also find that the levels themselves are procedurally generated. This allows every session to play out in unique ways and feel fresh each time. Two things that cement Project Starship X as a great short burst shooter. It may not be the kind of game that you'll want to spend hours mastering, but it's the perfect thing to load up when you just have a few minutes and want to chase the high score. It's just hard enough to give us a challenge, but not so difficult that it's inaccessible to casual shoot-'em-up fans. And just in case you're worried that there isn't going to be enough content, it's worth mentioning that there are a number of unlockable modes that'll increase the difficulty, randomize everything, have you fighting nothing but bosses, and more. Yeah, this may be a straightforward vertical shooter, but it's loaded with enough content to keep you coming back long after you've seen all the stages. Project Starship X is also loaded with charm. This is a seriously stylish shooter with memorable pixel enemies and a great sense of humor. I love the mix of Lovecraftian horror and cartoony characters, and this game doesn't miss a chance to have fun with the premise. The humor onslaught starts the moment you have to choose a pilot, and it doesn't stop there, even going as far as to mock the player for just reading the tutorial guide. Having played games like Red Death and Pity Pit, this is exactly the kind of game I expected from Panda Indie Studio. And that's a good thing. That said, I wish there was a little more Lovecraftian parody to the cosmic horror theme. Don't get me wrong, the game is goofy and I love its sense of humor, but it also feels like it's not as biting as it could have been. When you strip away some of that style, you see a fairly straightforward space shooter that imitates more than innovates. It's also a nightmare to see what's going on when you're playing with a second person, which is really disappointing. There are just times when the style and charm that I like so much gets in the way. But you know what? It's never enough to ruin the fun. Sure, it's a little rough around the edges, but Project Starship X is always fun. With cool pixel graphics, a fun chiptune soundtrack, and an enticing horror theme, Project Starship X is a stylish new shooter that will satisfy both casuals and hardcore genre fans alike. It's loaded with modes and memorable moments, making this a great choice when you just have a few minutes to burn. Yeah, it's a little shallow, and the two-player mode is hard to keep track of. But Project Starship X is even more proof that Panda Indie Studio is a developer that should definitely be on your radar. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What game developer will get your attention no matter what? That is to say, is there a company that you're loyal to because you just love their games? Maybe it's out of consistency, or they have a franchise that you like, or something else. Just a company where you're always excited to see what they announce. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we have a baffling review of the USB stick found in the grass on Friday, followed by a review of Speed Limit on Monday. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,